My guest today is Zach Paul. He's someone who's been on an interesting journey from training to be a Navy SEAL to now being a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, somebody who helps you break through the chains in a slightly different way than I do. And I'm interested to have this conversation with him because it's been a bumpy road. There's been talk of a coma. And so I'm excited to explore his journey, some of the challenges that he's faced, some of the chains that he's broken through in his own life, and how he's now helping others. Zach, thank you for joining me today. I've given that quick introduction there, but there's so much more to say on that. You and I have had an initial conversation. So help me understand that. The training that you're going through in the military, it's one of the most intensive in the world, from what I understand, to now being a performance coach, hypnotist, help me understand that. Because for me, that's, I see TV programs and you're like, really? So you're going to make me talk like a chicken and you're going to make me walk like a chicken. And obviously there's that common misconception about what's involved. So I'd love to have you unpack that and walk me through your journey.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on and looking forward to the conversation. So yeah, that's probably a story that nobody has ever quite heard before. I don't know if there's this unique series of events. So maybe, I don't know, it sounds like a comic book or something like that. Sometimes I think the details of my life are pretty crazy, but it starts out normal enough. Like many people, I had a tough childhood. I was bullied as a kid. I struggled socially. Things that at the time I thought were unique to just me, but as it turns out, almost everybody goes through these things, right? But I very much used to feel sorry for myself, and I let myself get angry and eventually decided that I was going to join the military. And I wasn't just going to join the military though. I was going to prove myself. I was going to really stick it to them, and I was going to show what I'm made of. So not only did I decide to join the military, but I decided to join the military and become a Navy SEAL. It was the only thing I wanted to do. I looked for the hardest thing that I could find in the entire military, and that's where I landed. So being this skinny kid that got bullied, I found a mentor, found a former SEAL who trained me. And I spent my year, it's like one of those 80s movies montage, right? Where you're like up in the mountains, flipping the logs. And I had my own version of that. End up going through SEAL training, go through Hell Week, go through all the stuff. And then next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital. And I've been in a coma for 3 days. And it turns out that I was actually struck by a drunk driver. You hear military, coma, brain injury, but no, it was just a freak accident. And this happened actually before I could finish training, right? I was through Hell Week, but not to the point where I was actually a SEAL on one of the teams or any of that I'd actually gone for. So I found myself in this crisis of meaning, this who am I? Because I could no longer stay in the military. Due to the severity of my injuries, and it was a pretty serious brain injury, I could not stay in the military. So I found myself just in this crisis of meaning and identity and who am I? If I'm not going to be the military guy, if I can't be the Navy SEAL, because they install these mindsets into you, right? You take it on as an identity level. They take a 20-year-old kid off the streets, strip them down to their bare human essentials, and then rebuild and reprogram in the mindset that's going to do this job that gets this result. And I've spent a lot of time reverse engineering that, and we'll circle back to that here in a little bit of why that's impactful for anybody. But I found myself just in this place of no identity. My goal's gone, my dream taken away, the way I saw it. Massive anger, massive anxiety, depression, hopelessness. It was just this downward spiral, right? And there was a lot of drugs, a lot of reckless behavior. I had no impulse control. It's a miracle. There's several miracles it's a miracle that I didn't die several times. You can only drive speeding down the highway high on ecstasy at 4 a.m. to go fuck a random girl you met at the bar. Then there's only so many of those you can do that, before your time runs up. And I just had these moments where I realized that I'm playing with fire in here and I'm about to kill myself. And a big part of me wanted to, and I actually started planning it out and thinking of different ways to do it. And that's really how dark this got. As I realized, instead of trying to do it accidentally, why not do it on purpose? Why not just be intentional with it? And it got to the point where I was laying on the couch one day, thinking of a way that I could kill myself without it looking like a suicide. And I had this moment of realness. And I realized I took myself out of that and I looked down on it and I was like, whose voice is that? That's not me. That's not my voice. That's not my story. That's not how I want this to go. So there's got to be a way out. But I tried all the other stuff that they said to do, right? I spent almost a decade in therapy, seeing a half a dozen or more different therapists for different things. I'd gone to all the neurologists and the doctors and taken the drugs and the medications and tried mindfulness and breath work and all these just kind of like normal alternative things. And, some of it would make you feel better for a little bit. Okay, cool. I got to rant a little bit and talk about my feelings. Or I got to meditate and forget about life, but there was something underlying that needed to shift. It needed to be released, and I could run from it and I could get away from it, but I couldn't ever get control of it. And that was the real time I realized there was something missing, right? There's something missing from all the traditional approaches. There was something missing from all the alternative approaches. So I took that idea of suicide and of ending my life and I put it on the back burner. I said, okay, that's an option that's there. Let's figure this out though, right? I've, getting through Hell Week, getting through SEAL training, that piece of it was a very, very big accomplishment for me that gave me a lot of confidence to my core confidence. And so I said, if I can do that, then I can probably do this. So I was like, I need to go outside the normal solutions, right? So I started to go down some weird rabbit holes, and I got into one of the first things was I went on a psychedelic retreat for veterans with brain injuries, and they put us through this 2-day psychedelic medicine experience that gave me a massive perspective shift. And when I had that shift, I let go. I let go of a lot of anger and frustration and sadness and regret and a lot of negative feelings. I was able to instantly let go of. And it was like a light switch turned off. And it was an amazing experience and a very beautiful experience. It also required me to go down to Mexico to get a bunch of medical tests to make sure I could handle it, because this is not a light experience. I needed to be under medical supervision of doctors and nurses with an IV port in, hooked up to a heart monitor. Like, this was not a light experience. So, but it was a very effective experience. So I became obsessed with this question of what changed, what shifted. And while I was exploring and examining that question, I started to rebuild my life. I feel like I got a fresh start, a blank slate. So I started asking myself, how do I want to rebuild my life? What is this life that I actually want? Instead of just going day to day, doing my job day in, day out, like, where do I actually want to go? And I started to build out this vision. And as I started to build this vision, I realized there was still a lot more stuff in the way. The psychedelic experience was a powerful experience and a shift that I needed to see, but it wasn't the be all end all, right? I still had stuff to deal with. I still had regular life to deal with. And there were still a lot more barriers to go between me and the life that I actually wanted. So I became obsessed with this, is how can I continue to cut these chains? How can I continue to break these chains, cut these cords, remove this tangled up web of stuff in the way, standing between me and what I want? And I just became obsessed with this question. I studied neuroscience. I was like, how does the brain work? Let me understand actually how does the brain work, instead of, the high level, the simplified. Like, I wanted to understand what was actually happening structurally in the brain, because I felt the shift. I remember feeling something change in my brain. So I wanted to figure out what that was. Then I went down different spiritual fields of study to find out they're all kind of saying the same thing, but from different perspectives. Right? So it seems to me that there's probably some sort of universal truth that a lot of different people have come up with a lot of different explanations for. They're all getting at the same thing, but I found some universal truths across all these philosophies. And then hypnosis. I started learning hypnosis in 5th grade. And I remember sitting out front of the bus stop with this book with like a target painted on the front, and, trying to hypnotize the other kids without really understanding what I was doing. And, how much can a 5th grader understand about the brain and the mind? Well, not a whole lot, as it turns out. But I planted those seeds. And once I pulled all these things together, and I'll bring together hypnosis, because you brought up something interesting about the performers and clicking like a chicken. So I'll give you my thoughts on that here in just a moment. But once I put all these pieces together, right, once I was able to figure out the psychedelic shift, how the brain works, different principles for being happy and peaceful, and then hypnosis for creating rapid change, I developed this unique style. Because hypnosis is simply, we talk about hypnosis. Hypnosis is just a state of high suggestibility. We go into, and some people will be like, oh, I can't be hypnotized. We're hypnotized all the time. Whenever you catch yourself and realize that you're mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, you're hypnotized. Whenever you drive home and realize that you have no idea how you got there, it was on autopilot, you're in hypnosis. So we go into hypnotic states all the time. The human brain actually defaults to wanting to go into it. So what you do is we take advantage of the way the brain works in this mind. And now we take people into this hypnotic state and then give them suggestions of things that they want to change. So somebody that wants to let go, somebody that's had this lifetime long thing of pain that they want to let go of, has been trying to let go, but unsuccessfully done it. They're primed. This band is stretched tight and primed and ready to snap. And all we do is we use hypnosis, open up what's in the way, suggest they cut it, they let go, and then the change is quick and permanent. So, there is a variation of hypnosis where, you'll get some guy clicking on a stage or some guy looking like a magician wearing a cape with a pocket watch going, "You're getting very sleepy," right? Like it's entertainment, right? It's fun to watch, I suppose. But the reality is I'm not in this to entertain, right? The real skill set that I have and what I really am here to do is to help people, because I did it the hard way. I spent 10 years, it almost killed me. And I spent over a decade of my life figuring out this fundamental question of how do we change someone's mind? How do we change someone's brain to work for them instead of against them in the shortest amount of time with the most powerful results possible? And that's just been the burning question that I've been uncovering and finding every single possible aspect to, and I'm not even there yet. There's many, many more levels that I'm aware of. But I do genuinely believe that I understand this at a level that no other human being on the planet does, with all these different pieces put together. And so that's why what I do, I'm very, very big on results, right? Is what do you want? What's in the way? What's the vision? What's in the way? What are the tactics to get there? And then using hypnosis and these other pieces, we can just install that to somebody, and now they're running on autopilot. They're doing whatever they need to do. The fears, the depression, the anxiety, all these things that are temporary conditions can be removed, can be turned off like light switches. And then we just get to have what we want, live these cool lives of freedom and purpose where we get to help other people.
Amazing. Yeah. What a journey. That, I guess, transformation for yourself, but then finding a way to support others in making changes in their life. One thing I'm interested to touch on there, you mentioned it's been a multi-year journey. And one of the chains that I talk about is relationships. How have the people closest to you responded to the changes that you recognized in yourself after that psychedelic experience, and then this journey that you've been on to learn more about the brain, to start supporting people in this way? Have they been easy conversations? Has there been general acceptance and support? Has it been a challenge to get people on side?
I've found that there's 3 ways that people respond when you make changes and change your life for the better. Number 1 is they will ignore it, and you'll just end up leaving them behind. You'll fall out of touch. You'll find you have less and less in common, and they'll just kind of quietly drift away. And I've noticed that happened with plenty of people, and no hard feelings. I'm sure we'd be fine if we talked, but we just kind of stopped talking because we have less and less in common, right? Everybody's on their own journey. I had to be on mine. Now, the second thing that'll happen is you'll piss people off. They will get offended by it. They will poke holes in it. They will doubt you. They will push back against it. They'll point out all the reasons why it'll fail. They'll point out what the smart thing to do, the sensible thing to do. They'll to encourage you to play it safe, right? Or some of them may even get very, very angry. Some of them may criticize. I remember my best friend was extremely critical, and to be blunt, he was a dick about it when I first started my business, right? But the most important thing is to know where you're going and hold your focus on that and keep moving forward. Because if I'd given in to everybody's negativity, if I'd listened when they said I couldn't do it, and if I believed them and questioned myself, because it's hard enough. Doing anything like this is hard enough as it is. Anybody that tells you it's easy is lying to you. It's incredibly hard, and only the people that are willing to endure and stick with it and learn and grow will make it, right? It's incredibly difficult. And so that's there enough. But if I had listened to the other people, right, I knew that I could do it. I had to keep my mind there, focused on the vision of where I wanted to go. And if I let other people distract me from that and take my eyes off it, maybe they're right. Maybe I should play it safe. It's over. It's done. And then I get to wake up someday, years down the road, and with regret and wonder, what if I'd had the courage to go for it? What if I'd had the strength and the focus to actually stay focused on what I want and really, really go after it and give it my everything? I never want to have that regret. I never want to wonder that. So I will always give it my all every single day. Some days are better than others. And I certainly have my fair share of days where I want to pull my hair out and throw my computer. Like, again, I'm working on it. I'm not there yet, but it's keep going. And so the most important thing is that. And the third category of people along the journey will get on board. And they may start to ask you for advice. They may start to just admire what you've done. They're quietly watching. There's a lot of people. Here's what the biggest thing that I learned, though, is some people are watching, waiting for you to fail, right? And to those people, you can do it to prove them wrong. But a far larger number of people, so many more people are watching, rooting for you to succeed. They want to see you win. They want to see an underdog come out on top. They want to see the success story and believe that because it's possible for you, it's possible for them. So the most important thing, no matter how anybody responds, some people will fall off, some people will get in the way and be obstacles, but that doesn't matter because you're not doing it for those people. You're doing it for the third category of people who need to see what's possible. They need to see you rise up and overcome whatever it is that you're working through so that they believe they can do it themselves. The only way to do it is to lead by example, but you can only lead from the front. So if anybody's watching this and you had a dream, you had a goal, you had something you're working through and people are in the way of it, you're not doing it for them. Just remember, there's people rooting for you and wanting you to succeed. And when you get to a level, here's what happens with these people. When you get to a certain level that they can check in their mind, he did it, they will come to you. Actually, I got my very first client this way. He was a guy from the military that asked me what I had done. He noticed a difference and asked me what I was doing. I put together a program for him. I reverse engineered all the stuff that worked for me into a set of tools, into a process, and took him through it. And I found that process has been the foundation for everything that I do at a much higher level now. And over 3 years, I've built better tools. I've refined it. I've tested with hundreds of people. I've got so much data. It's like clockwork at this point. It works, period. But the reason that this happened is because somebody saw what I was doing, asked about it. And then when I got him results, helped him with his marriage, helped him with his business. He made more money, he became a better husband, father. Really, really great story. He suggested I do it for a business, and I would not have been here if it had not been for that. So the most important thing is to remember that people are watching. They want you to win. They're rooting for you to win. And when you get to a level where they believe they can trust you to get them the same result, they will reach out to you and they will get on board and they'll become your biggest fans.
Awesome. And I think that actually leads nicely into the next bit that I want to touch on. You mentioned there, supporting, somebody in the military, similar experience to you, I guess, in terms of understanding what military life is like and dealing with all of those stresses and pressures. What does that program look like? You mentioned hypnosis and people being in a state of having that stretch band and just be, helping them cut through that. So the process that you take people through, is that one session? Is it multiple sessions? Are there things that you build around that? Just help me understand that process that you take people through for my interest, but also, the listeners or the viewers, so they can say, okay, right, I may have seen a Marissa Peer or a Paul McKenna or a, somebody else within the space that they're looking at, but just, I guess, help them understand the approach that you take and how you guide people through it.
Yeah, my approach is very, very complicated. So first thing I do is I ask you, what do you want? What do you want? It's the most important thing. And I found a lot of people will know really good at knowing what they don't want. So it's great. We need to know what we get out of the way, but we've got to know what we want. So the first thing I do is figure out what does this person want truly to their core, right? What is that thing that will have you waking up with your soul on fire, feeling great, feeling fulfilled? Like, what does that look like, right? I do not do small thinking. I challenge people to think big, think bigger. What do you really want? Once we get that, we have to figure out whatever's in the way. So there's this model that I use. You use chains. I use one called charges, where it's these highly charged emotional events get stored as physical structures in the brain via electricity. We've got anger, frustration, fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, grief, loss, depression, resentment, anxiety. Like, there's 10 of them. And everybody has them. We collect them over a lifetime, and they act as these like kinked hoses in our mind. So the next thing we have to do is we know what somebody wants is what's all the stuff that's in the way, right? What are all the fears that's preventing their nervous system from taking action? What are they grieving or feeling loss over? What are they feeling guilty about that's keeping their attention stuck in the past, draining from the present, moving forward, right? We've got to free up all this stuff. And there's so much mental bandwidth that people spend. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just, hi, welcome to being human on planet Earth. We burn so much mental bandwidth on stuff that doesn't actually move us forward or bring us joy. So the biggest thing is what I had to figure out for myself is we've got to free up that mental bandwidth. Got to get all the stuff that's flowing through the brain that doesn't need to be there, that's not helping, get rid of it. Free up that mind space, free up that brain space, get more energy, happier, clearer thinking, and all that. So it's a very systematic process. And then the last piece is tactics, right? Okay, you know where you want to go. We got rid of all the obstacles. How are we actually going to get there? What's the actual path to get there? Strategies, tactics, tools, whatever it is. So to answer your question, that's the general framework that I use for any of this, but it really comes down to what does the person want? If somebody wants to take their business from 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 figures, we're probably going to work together for 6 months and do this as a process over some time, right? If somebody just wants to quit drinking or quit smoking, we can do it in an hour. So it just kind of depends on the results somebody wants. So people on average work with me for about 3 months because that allows us to clear out a lot of stuff as well as get them some significant results and momentum. Some people stick as long with me. I think my longest client's been with me for 2 years because it's like, how good can you stand it, buddy? How high can we go? So it really just kind of depends on what somebody wants to achieve and how much help they need getting there.
I think that's an interesting point there, just to touch on what you said. Those people who potentially are thinking, I want to give up alcohol, give up smoking, being able to do that in an hour, putting them into a state where they start addressing some of these things internally. I think it's important for people to sort of hear and understand that that is possible. And there is a process that they can go through to break free of those things.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. So let me expand a little bit more. So the whole idea is, therapy is great if you want to go talk about it, right? Meditating is great if you want to do it yourself with a lot of repetitions and a lot of willpower and a lot of that. But I found hypnosis is the most effective way to open up the mind and open up this filter that keeps us from changing, right? Which is why we can't willpower our way to change. Everybody's had the experience of, okay, I'm going to change it. It's going to be the last time I'm going to start. And then they mean well, and then it's back to old habits because the subconscious is running everything. So hypnosis is the fastest way to go in and make suggestions and change the subconscious. So if somebody, for example, like alcohol is an easy one, or substances or anything like that is an easy one, because all we have to do, there's a series of beliefs that lead that person to thinking that picking up the bottle and drinking is good for them and brings them joy. All we have to do is just change the way the brain perceives that and link it to their health declining, their business suffering, their relationship suffering, them dying early, right? Whatever their motivations are. And this is why I'm very fast and very effective with it, but it also has to be customized to the individual, because your motivations, I take 2 people that want to quit drinking, for example. One guy may want to do it because he'll make more money. The other one wants to do it because he'll live longer. Those people, I have to give them a different experience, even though the result is the same. So the reason it's almost like mind surgery, right? It's very, very highly customized and targeted to the person, but it's also very fast, right? And then if we sat down, I'd ask you some questions about your drinking and the habits and the triggers. I don't even have to know the details. Right? It's the crazy thing is a lot of times with people too, I don't actually need to know the details. All I need to know is what are they experiencing and what do they want to experience instead. And we just flip flop those wires, and then it happens on autopilot. So some of the different things I've helped people with, drinking, alcohol, substances is easy. That's all easy. A lot of mental health stuff, right? Depression, anxiety, ADHD, Tourette's syndrome, depression. A lot of these are, again, can be done pretty quickly. For example, if somebody comes to me and they're just like, I have anxiety and panic attacks. I actually did this with somebody the other day. Somebody's like, I'm having anxiety and panic attacks, and their brain is perceiving this stress as like this big scary monster. We'll just change it. So now, this person in particular, now she sees it as a cute little fluffy bunny. And so every time an anxiety trigger kicks in, she sees this little fluffy bunny, starts laughing and feels good about it. Whereas before she had debilitating anxiety attacks. Took 10 minutes. So that's the stuff that's possible as far as like singular one-off results. But then a lot of people, if a lot of people are like, okay, I want to make more money, have better relationships, get our relationship or our marriage back on track. Forget like, helped a couple, which I just did this the other day, actually. Helped a couple get past an infidelity. He cheated on her. They were having all sorts of struggles, and we wanted to like kind of forget it, let it go, and move on. They both wanted to. That's what they both agreed they wanted to do. So we put them back and just gave them kind of a new way of perceiving everything. It's just we've been having some troubles, and now we're moving forward, kind of like a blank slate for people that just wanted to start over. So like I said, the answer is really like, what do you want? And then how do we get that?
Nice. Yeah, I think it's great for people to hear that, because different methodologies that people can find, whether it is the meditation and going to a retreat, or going and seeing a therapist, and there's multiple different ways that people can look for support and guidance. So it's just interesting to hear that approach that you take, and how quick and easy, I guess, it can be. If you want to make that change and what it is that you're working towards, it becomes easy to say, right, let's focus on that. Let's just, as you said, switch those wires around, and actually you can walk out and completely live a different life and head in a different direction. That's the next thing I'd be interested to get your thoughts on. You've obviously been through the process as well of setting up your business. So for those people who have got that vision of, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want to do with my life, what I want to achieve, maybe they're in a 9-to-5 at the minute, and it's okay, how do I start something, how do I change my direction? What would you say to them based on obviously the research that you've done and how the brain works, your own experience of setting up a business? Are there any sort of tips or guidance that you would give to those people?
Yes, 100%. So to anybody that was ready to make a change and start a business, here are the lessons that I've learned from myself and from other businesses I've worked with. This is by no means a comprehensive list, because my business still has a long way to go. I'm not nearly where I want to be. But here's the things that I've learned that took me, if I could go back and do it all over again, here's how I would do it. First thing is understand, what are your skills? In other words, what are the skills that you have that can help people? What do you want to find? The biggest thing is you want to find problems you can solve. You start with that. A mistake a lot of people make, myself included, is it's like, oh, I have this cool idea for this product. Oh, I got this really cool idea. I got a great idea. Yeah, great. Ideas are literally a dime a dozen. They're simple. It's executing on the idea. But where most people go wrong is most people like their idea and they fall in love with this thing that they think is cool without realizing that they are not their customer. So the number one thing I would suggest to anybody wanting to get started would be write down and figure out all your skills, all the things that you know how to do that solve other people's problems. Figure out what that is. And if you don't know, then go out and talk to a lot of people. Figure out who you want to work with, figure out what their problems are, and become the best problem solver in the world for that problem, whatever that is. If you start there, if you solve people's problems, everything you've ever bought, everything you've ever paid for has been to solve some sort of problem. Now, people's problems, typically, like the important problems that they'll pay for fall into 1 of 3 categories. It's either going to be health, something to do with their physical, mental wellness; wealth, something to do with either making money or keeping money; or relationships, which is usually going to be attracting and keeping a partner. Can also be social, can obviously be business. But if you find a problem that you can solve in one of those 3 categories, then you have the foundation for a solid business. The next thing is you're going to need some other skills that you don't have. You're going to need to learn how to market, because that is how people find out about you and know what you can do. And you're going to need to learn how to sell, which is persuading somebody that taking out their wallet and buying whatever it is that you're selling makes their life better. It is a huge value add to them. Those are 2 skills that if you learn those skills, if you learn both of those skills, if you become a good marketer and a good salesperson, you'll have money for the rest of your life. You can market anything. Combine that with some skills that you have, and that's the start to a business. If you develop a skill, package it up in a way that it makes people's lives better and solves a problem, and you learn how to communicate it to people, and then you learn how to speak to them enough that they want to buy it, you have a business. And then from there, there's ways to obviously add more zeros and more zeros. If you get there, hit me up. I'll show you what I know to get to the next level. That's the biggest thing. Find a problem you can solve, your skills, figure out all your skills, figure out what makes you unique, learn marketing, and learn sales. I'd recommend checking out both of Alex Hormozi's books, or maybe 3, but depending when you're hearing this podcast. $1 Million Offers, $1 Million Leads, I would say, are 2 fundamental books. If you want to learn marketing, I would study everything from Dan Kennedy. And I would check out Russell Brunson, .com secrets, expert secrets, traffic secrets. That would be like if I were to organize this into a class, that would be like the year one. That would be like the first year foundational work. But you could do that and easily build a 7-figure business with just, if you just read those books and just did what we talked about, you could build a 7-figure business with just that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a fan of all of those. I've got a copy of Expert Secrets here, and $1 Million Offers from Alex Hormozy is one that I reread on a regular basis, because like anything, we have life experiences, our perspective changes. So for me, there's often books that I reread because I view them in a new light. It's like, oh, actually, yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. Oh, okay, right. And so you can start to utilize them in a different way. So great to hear your reading list there, and your suggestions for those who wants to break free of the 9-to-5 and start their own thing.
Real quick, last thing I would say to anybody is buckle up for the long haul. There are good marketers out there that will promise you overnight success. And every once in a while that actually happens, right? Every once in a while, but don't bank on that. If you want to be successful at it, you've got to commit to it. There's no trying it. Like the difference between when we showed up to Navy SEAL training, there were two types of people. There were the guys that were like, I'm going to try it out and see what I'm made of and test myself. And there were the guys that said, I'm going to make it through this no matter what. I'm going to be there at the end, still standing or die trying. Guess which ones made it and guess which ones quit. Most people do not have what it takes to see something through to the end. Not because they're not capable, not because they couldn't if they wanted to, but because they don't commit. So the mindset, if you're going to start a business, the mindset is I'm going to build a successful business no matter what. I'm going to fail a lot. I'm going to fail so many times it hurts and I'm going to want to give up. In those moments, I'm going to remember my commitment and my vision and why I did this in the first place. And no matter what, keep going. Make that commitment before you start. And if you're not willing to make that commitment, don't waste your time.
I think that's an important point to make, because a lot of people, they look at it and go, oh, read something, watch something, see all the shiny stuff, think, oh, yes, 7 figures, 8 figures. It's like, I've got that vision, I've got that dream. But actually the path to get there, yeah, you've mentioned it, there's going to be tough times. There's going to be failures along the way, learning opportunities, depending on your view of the world. But I guess it's, that acceptance and understanding that it's not an easy path and it's not, suddenly going to happen overnight. So great to hear you give your thoughts on that. The final thing then, while we're here, okay, we've touched on things from a business perspective, but you obviously, through the work that you do in the program, cover lots of other areas. Do you have, a couple of tips that you would give to people just generally for life that you would say, what, if you just think about, these 3 things, or you do these 3 things, it can change everything, whether it's perspective, whether it's the direction that somebody is headed on, anything like that you would want to share?
If I had to distill, okay. If I had to get down to the top 3 things that would help somebody be successful in life, the first thing would be to be intentional with your focus. Mind your focus. What you think about, you get. If you think about what you want, you'll find ways to get what you want. You'll feel what you want. You'll get it. If you think about what you don't want, this is critical because most people do this. Most people think about what they don't want, then they get more of what they don't want. So instead of saying, I want to be wealthy, I want to be happy, I want to be successful, I want to have good relationships, they think, oh, I don't want to be broke. Oh, don't want to end up like them. Don't want to be anxious, right? And so they think about these things, and then that's what they get. They get more of that. So the number one thing would be to be very intentional with what you think about. Your thoughts are the most powerful thing in the universe. Some of you are going to get this, some of you aren't. If you don't get it, I encourage you to go hit me up and I'll send you more stuff. But your thoughts are the number one asset that you have. Nothing else matters other than your attention, where you put it. When you pay attention, it's literally a currency, right? We pay attention. Whatever you pay attention to grows in your life. So the number, be incredibly guarded with your attention. This includes your time. You do not have free time, right? People are like, oh, I have free time. You do not have free time. Every single second is ticking away and it's gone forever and you will never get it back. If you wasted it doing something useless, if you wasted it being spaced out and being a zombie, derpa, scrolling, click videos, like if you wasted your time that way, you're never getting it back. It's gone forever. gone forever. So there's no such thing as free time. Every single second counts. It should be the most valuable thing in your entire life. So number one, mind your focus, mind your time. Number two, be incredibly guarded with the people that you allow into your life. It is better to walk alone than walk with poor company. People will keep you down if they want to, if they can. There's this idea of crab mentality, which is where once you get some crabs in a pot, you actually don't even need to seal it, because if one crab tries to escape, the others will grab it and pull it back down. Humans do the same thing. If they see one human, if the people in your life see you in this box, this very comfortable, convenient box that's on their level and matches what they know, then all of a sudden, if you try to escape that box, you try to say, hey, there's another layer out here, there's another world up here. One, it shatters their reality. People do not like to have their reality challenged. But two, if you can do it, then they can do it. And people, it's easier for people to pull you back down than it is for them to encourage you to rise up. So if you're going to break free from anything, you've got to be willing to let people go. And you've got to be incredibly careful with who you let into your life and who you let into your circle. If you hang out with 4 other losers who hang out and smoke weed and don't do anything useful, you'll be another one. If you hang out with 4 other people that are talking about making money and building a business and getting in good relationships and getting fit and taking care of themselves, you're going to be another one. So walk alone until you can walk with winners. And give too. Don't just go to seek to give. Give more than you take. Always give more than you take. And the third thing, if we were to put this on a bumper sticker, would be have fun. If you're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. This is not meant to be serious. This is not meant, I know I've got this like very serious, don't waste your time, be serious vibe, and people like the little bit of the drill instructor, a little bit of the aggressive, it's what I bring to the table. But if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. You've got to be having fun, because someday soon we're going to be dead. It's just going to be gone, right? It might be tomorrow. It might be a week from now, a month from now, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 50, 100 years from now for some of us, right? You don't know when that line is, though. So at some point, so if you do not enjoy it right now, plan as if you're going to live to be 100, 200, 500. I don't know what technology is going to do. It's going to be fucking weird. But plan as if you're going to live to be old. But if you do not enjoy it today, tomorrow is not promised. So have fun. Enjoy it. Do not take it seriously. Nobody makes it out alive anyways. All right? So have fun. Do your best. Move towards the future. Just enjoy it. Like, this is weird. We're talking apes on a floating rock flying through space, on fire, going around a ball of radiation. Like, what? I don't like, shit's weird. Have fun with it.